So here's the things we're going to need to change the oil on the 2017 CRV. We're going to need rubber gloves. Used oil is really bad for your skin, so keep your hands covered with rubber gloves. We'll need a shop towel for cleaning up our hands and wiping off the engine. Safety glasses because we're working on a car. If you're ever working on a car, you need to wear safety glasses. I have an electric number 2 Phillips and a slotted screwdriver for taking off the under engine splash shield. We have a 17mm closed end wrench. That's for the drain bolt. I have a pair of diagonal cutters for removing the crush washer if it's stuck on. And then finally some canned solvent to clean up our oil change mess. So a couple things. Before you go to change your oil, you want to make sure that you're not changing the oil on a cold engine. So you want to warm the engine up so it's nice and warm, so all the oil drains out. Cold oil is really thick and doesn't like to pour, so it takes longer to drain the oil out when it's cold, and you don't get as much of it out when it's cold. So be sure and warm up the engine. We're here in a shop, so I have it on a hoist. One of these racks right here. But at home, you're gonna have it. You're gonna have a jack. And one thing I want to say is, if you're using a jack, never get under a car that is solely supported by a jack. You want to put what they call jack stands underneath the car to hold up the car. The jack is merely a tool for lifting the car up. It's not a tool for holding the car up. Jack stands hold cars up. Not blocks of wood, not cinder blocks, nothing but a jack stand is made to hold a car up. There are some things out there to lift a car up that you roll up onto called ramps. I'm not a big fan of these, but in a pinch they'll do. I think they're dangerous. I've had them slip out from underneath the car when you're backing down the ramp, and I didn't like it, so I don't recommend it. But there you go. So before your oil change, warm up the engine. Okay, Scots, here we go. We're going to do a little oil change on a vehicle. So what we have here is the oil cap and the oil dipstick. This orange part. So we're going to remove the oil cap. And what that does is allows the oil to come out much easier. And it reminds us that we need to fill it when we're done. So there's that. Now, here at the shop, I have the car on a hoist. So we're going to go ahead and lift it up in the air. And we'll drain the oil out of it and change the filter. Okay, so now we have the car lifted up in the air. And what we're going to find here underneath the engine is a splash panel that we need to remove so we can access the bottom side of the engine. Okay, we've removed the splash panel, and now we have the underside of the engine, and there's two areas down here that we're going to touch on. This would be the oil drain bolt. So we'll take this bolt out and the oil will come out of the engine. That's the oil filter. That helps keep the oil clean, and we're going to go ahead and replace that as well. Okay, so we got our oil drain pan. We're going to loosen the bolt. So we're going to loosen the bolt and let the oil out. Okay, so while that's happening, we're going to go ahead and get our filter off of there. Okay, so we're gonna get our wrench on there. Okay. Gonna partially open it, let that oil drain out too. We'll grab a towel and unscrew the filter. So here's our new oil filter, and we're going to want to put a film of oil around this rubber O-ring right here. And that's so when you screw it back on, it doesn't bind up. So, take a little bit of motor oil, it's still draining, put it on there. Now, unlike taking the filter off, when you put it back on, you don't need a wrench. You don't want to over tighten your filter. So right until it makes contact, and then do 3/4 of a turn. Sorry about the jitteriness. I'm holding the camera with one hand and working with the other. So there we go. Now that's on there. Now we have this big mess we gotta clean up. We'll wait until we put the drain plug back in. So here's our drain plug. On here is a one-time use washer. It's so the oil won't leak. It's called a crush washer. Here's the new one. So we're going to take it off of here, put this new one on, and then put the bolt back into the engine. Alright, so we got our new crush washer on there. Let's take it over to the engine. Put it back in there. And hand tighten it, and then if you have a torque wrench, you're going to want to torque that bolt to the proper torque, and if you don't, just take a wrench and snug it tight until the crush washer crushes, and then you're done. We want to clean up our mess. Either you could use a shop towel and clean it up, or you could use brake clean or some kind of spray solvent. Alright, now we check, make sure that's tight, make sure that's tight, and the oil draining part is done. So we're going to go ahead and put the splash shield back on the underside of the engine. Okay, so here we go. We got a funnel and our oil feeder, and this engine here is a 1.5 liter turbo, and it takes 3.8 quarts of oil. And for any of you parents out there who are kind of gearheads, it's a 1.5 liter turbo, and the turbo's got a variable wastegate, which is pretty cool. Okay, and for you kids, the turbo, the reason they put it on this engine is to make more power out of a small engine to give you good fuel economy. So here we go, 3.8 quarts coming up. And there we are, 3.8 quarts. Now, I know how much oil goes into this engine, and I've got a digital gauge here that told me how much oil we're going to put in the engine. But the next step is to verify with the dipstick that the oil is indeed full. So we'll do that here in a moment. Okay, so since we put a new filter on, before we check the engine oil level, we need to run the engine so the new filter gets filled up with oil. Or else when we look at the dipstick, it'll look like we have too much. Just let the engine run for about 30 seconds, and that should be enough. And now that we've run the engine, we want to wait another 30 seconds or so to check the oil, so oil can go from the top of the engine and drain into the bottom of the engine. Okay, so we're going to pull the dipstick out and clean it. So you can see it's clean. You can see the 2 dots. We want the oil to be at the top dot and not over it. So put the dipstick back in the hole, put it in, take it out, and you'll be able to see the oil right underneath the top dot. And that's perfect. In between the 2 dots is considered properly filled. And there we have it. We've changed the oil on a 2017 CRV. So just a little tour of the engine bay real quick. Here's the battery. That's what starts the car. Inside this thing here is an air filter. We'll look at how to change that some other time. This piece here is sitting on top of the engine. It's part of the air intake. The engine itself is really hard to see because they have so much stuff bolted to it. Back here is where the air comes into the engine. Up here is where the exhaust goes out. There's a coolant tank for storing coolant to keep the engine cool. Here's where you put your washer fluid to clean your windshield. Brake fluid reservoir for your brake fluid. And that's about all the caps and covers this engine has a person could look at. Checking the transmission level on this vehicle, there's no dipstick, so it requires a whole procedure that we're not going to go into today. But there you have it, guys.